Shalom and welcome back to the Cepher Daily Readings. Thank you for stopping by to follow along. I am Trish. All praise and glory to the Most High Yah, Yahuwah, in the name of the Son, Yahusha HaMashiach. May this be a blessing to you, and may it honor our Father, and may it bring you closer to understanding, to relationship with the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We are in Jasher, Yashar, in chapter 11. And Nimrod, son of Cush, was still in the land of Shinar, and he reigned over it and dwelt there. And he built cities in the land of Shinar, and these are the names of the 4 cities which he built. And he called their names after the occurrences that happened to them in the building of the tower. And he called the first Babel, saying, because Yahuwah there confounded the language of the whole earth. And the name of the second he called Erech, because from there Elohim dispersed them. And the third he called Akkad, saying there was a great battle at that place. And the fourth he called Calneh, because his princes and mighty men were consumed there. And they vexed Yahuwah. They rebelled and transgressed against him. And when Nimrod had built these cities in the land of Shinar, he placed in them the remainder of his people, his princes, and his mighty men that were left in his kingdom. And Nimrod dwelt in Babel, and he there renewed his reign over the rest of his subjects, and he reigned securely. And the subjects and the princes of Nimrod called his name Amraphel, saying that at the tower his princes and men fell through his means. And notwithstanding this, Nimrod did not return to Yahuwah, and he continued in wickedness, and teaching wickedness to the sons of men. And Mardan, his son, was worse than his father, and continued to add to the abominations of his father. And he caused the sons of men to sin, therefore it is said, from the wicked goes forth wickedness. At that time there was war between the families of the children of Ham, as they were dwelling in the cities which they had built. And Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, went away from the families of the children of Ham, and he fought with them, and he subdued them. And he went to the 5 cities of the circle of the Yarden, and he fought against them, and he subdued them. And they were under his control. And they served him 12 years, and they gave him a yearly tax. At that time died Nachor, son of Serug, in the 49th year of the life of Abram, son of Terach. And in the 50th year of the life of Abram, son of Terach, Abram came forth from the house of Noach, and went to his father's house. And Abram knew Yahuwah, and he went in his ways and instructions, and Yahuwah Elohayu was with him. And Terach, his father, was in those days still captain of the host of King Nimrod, and he still followed strange Elohim. And Abram came to his father's house and saw 12 Elohim standing there in their temples. And the anger of Abram was kindled when he saw these images in his father's house. And Abram said, as Yahuwah lives, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall Yahuwah, who created me, do unto me, if in 3 days' time I do not break them all. And Abram went from them, and his anger burned within him. And Abram hastened and went from the chamber to his father's outer court. And he found his father sitting in the court, and all his servants with him. And Abram came and sat before him. And Abram asked his father, saying, Father, tell me, where is Elohim, who created heaven and earth, and all the sons of men upon earth? And who created you and me? And Terach answered his son Abram and said, behold, those who created us are all with us in the house. And Abram said to his father, my Adonai, show them to me, I pray you. And Terach brought Abram into the chamber of the inner court. And Abram saw, and behold, the whole room was full of Elohim of wood and stone, 12 great images, and others less than they without number. And Terach said to his son, behold, These are they which made all you see upon earth, and which created me and you and all mankind. And Terach bowed down to his Elohim, and he then went away from them, and Abram his son went away with him. And when Abram had gone from them, he went to his mother and sat before her. And he said to his mother, Behold, my father has shown me those who made heaven and earth, and all the sons of men. Now, therefore, hasten and fetch a kid from the flock, and make of it savory meat, that I may bring it to my father's Elohim as an offering for them to eat. Perhaps I may thereby become acceptable to them. And his mother did so, and she fetched a kid and made savory meat thereof, and brought it to Abram. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother, and brought it before his father's Elohim. And he drew nigh to them that they might eat. And Terach his father did not know of it. And Abram saw on the day when he was sitting amongst them that they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not one of them could stretch forth his hand to eat. And Abram mocked them and said, Surely the savory meat that I prepared has not pleased them, or perhaps it was too little for them, and for that reason they would not eat. Therefore, tomorrow I will prepare fresh savory meat, better and more plentiful than this, in order that I may see the result. And it was on the next day that Abram directed his mother concerning the savory meat. And his mother rose and fetched 3 fine kids from the flock. And she made of them some excellent savory meat, such as her son was fond of. And she gave it to her son Abram, and Terach his father did not know of it. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother and brought it before his father's Elohim into the chamber. And he came nigh unto them that they might eat. And he placed it before them. And Abram sat before them all day, thinking perhaps they might eat. And Abram viewed them, and behold, they had neither voice nor hearing, nor did one of them stretch forth his hand to the meat to eat. And in the evening of that day, in that house, Abram was clothed with the Ruach Elohim. And he called out and said, Woe unto my father and this wicked generation, whose hearts are all inclined to vanity, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which can neither eat, smell, hear, nor speak, who have mouths without speech, eyes without sight, ears without hearing, hands without feeling, and legs which cannot move. Like them are those that made them and that trust in them. And when Abram saw all these things, his anger was kindled against his father. And he hastened and took a hatchet in his hand, and came unto the chamber of the Elohim, and he broke all his father's Elohim. And when he had done breaking the images, he placed the hatchet in the hand of the great Elohim, which was there before them, and he went out. And Terach his father came home, for he had heard at the door the sound of the striking of the hatchet. So Terach came into the house to know what this was about. And Terach, having heard the noise of the hatchet in the room of images, ran to the room to the images, and he met Abram going out. And Terach entered the room and found all the idols fallen down and broken, and the hatchet in the hand of the largest, which was not broken, and the savory meat which Abram his son had made was still before them. And when Terach saw this, his anger was greatly kindled, and he hastened and went from the room to Abram. And he found Abram his son still sitting in the house, and he said to him, What is this work you have done to my Elohim? And Abram answered Terach his father and said, Not so, my Adonai, for I brought savory meat before them, and when I came nigh to them with the meat, that they might eat, they all at once stretched forth their hands to eat, before the great one had put forth his hand to eat. And the large one saw their works that they did before him, and his anger was violently kindled against them. And he went and took the hatchet that was in the house, and came to them and broke them all. And behold, the hatchet is yet in his hand, as you see. And Terach's anger was kindled against his son Avram when he spoke this. And Terach said to Avram his son in his anger, "What is this tale that you have told? You tell lies to me. Is there in these Elohim Ruach, soul or power to do all you have told me? Are they not wood and stone, and have I not myself made them? And can you speak such lies, saying that the large Elohim that was with them smote them? It is you that placed the hatchet in his hands, and then say he smote them all." And Avram answered his father and said to him, "And how can you then serve these idols in whom there is no power to do anything? Can those idols in which you trust deliver you? Can they hear your prayers when you call upon them? Can they deliver you from the hands of your enemies? Or will they fight your battles for you against your enemies, that you should serve wood and stone, which can neither speak nor hear? And now surely it is not good for you, nor for the sons of men that are connected with you, to do these things. Are you so silly, so foolish, or so short of understanding that you will serve wood and stone, and do after this manner? And forget Yahuwah Elohim, who made heaven and earth, and who created you in the earth, and thereby bring a great evil upon your souls in this manner, by serving stone and wood? Did not our fathers in days of old sin in this matter? And Yahuwah Elohim of the universe brought the waters of the flood upon them and destroyed the whole earth? And how can you continue to do this and serve Elohim of wood and stone, who cannot hear or speak or deliver you from oppression, thereby bringing down the anger of the Elohim of the universe upon you? Now, therefore, my father, refrain from this, and bring not evil upon your soul and the souls of your household." And Avram hastened and sprang from before his father, and took the hatchet from his father's largest idol, with which Avram broke it and ran away. And Terach, seeing all that Avram had done, hastened to go from his house. And he went to the king, and he came before Nimrod and stood before him. And he bowed down to the king. And the king said, "What do you want?" And he said, "I beseech you, my Adonai, to hear me. Now, 50 years back a child was born to me, and thus has he done to my Elohim, and thus has he spoken. And now therefore, my Adonai and king, send for him that he may come before you, and judge him according to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil." And the king sent 3 men of his servants, and they went and brought Avram before the king. And Nimrod and all his princes and servants were that day sitting before him, and Terach sat also before them. And the king said to Avram, "What is this that you have done to your father and to his Elohim?" And Avram answered the king in the words that he spoke to his father, and he said, "The large Elohim that was with them in the house did to them what you have heard." And the king said to Avram, "Had they the power to speak and eat and do as you have said?" And Avram answered the king, saying, "And if there be no power in them, why do you serve them and cause the sons of men to err through your follies? Do you imagine that they can deliver you or do anything small or great, that you should serve them? And why will you not sense the Elohim of the whole universe, who created you, and in whose power it is to kill and keep alive? O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto you forever. I thought you would teach your servants the upright way, but you have not done this, but have filled the whole earth with your sins and the sins of your people who have followed your ways. Do you not know, or have you not heard, that this evil which you do, our ancestors sinned therein in the days of old, and the eternal Elohim brought the waters of the flood upon them, and destroyed them all, and also destroyed the whole earth on their account? And will you and your people rise up now and do like unto this work, in order to bring down the anger of Yahuwah Elohim of the universe, and to bring evil upon you and the whole earth? Now therefore, put away this evil deed which you do, and serve the Elohim of the universe, as your soul is in his hands, and then it will be well with you. And if your wicked heart will not hearken to my words to cause you to forsake your evil ways, and to serve the eternal Elohim, then will you die in shame in the latter days. You, your people, and all who are connected with you, hearing your words or walking in your evil ways. And when Avram had ceased speaking before the king and princes, Avram lifted up his eyes to the heavens, and he said, Yahuwah sees all the wicked, and he will judge them. Chapter 12. And when the king heard the words of Avram, he ordered him to be put into prison. And Avram was 10 days in prison. And at the end of those days, the king ordered that all the kings, princes, and governors of different provinces and the sages should come before him. And they sat before him. And Avram was still in the house of confinement. And the king said to the princes and sages, Have you heard what Avram, the son of Terach, has done to his father? Thus has he done to him, and I ordered him to be brought before me. And thus has he spoken. His heart did not misgive him, neither did he stir in my presence. And behold, now he is confined in prison. And therefore decide what judgment is due to this man, who reviled the king, who spoke and did all the things that you heard. And they all answered the king, saying, The man who reviles the king should be hanged upon a tree. But having done all the things that he said, and having despised our Elohim, he must therefore be burned to death. For this is the law in this matter. If it pleases the king to do this, let him order his servants to kindle a fire both night and day in your brick furnace, and then we will cast this man into it. And the king did so. And he commanded his servants that they should prepare a fire for 3 days and 3 nights in the king's furnace, that is in Tehilliym. And the king ordered them to take Avram from prison and bring him out to be burned. And all the king's servants, princes, adonim, governors, and judges, and all the inhabitants of the land, about 900,000 men, stood opposite the furnace to see Avram. And all the women and little ones crowded upon the roofs and towers to see what was doing with Avram. And they all stood together at a distance, and there was not a man left that did not come on that day to behold the scene. And when Avram had come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Avram, and they cried out to the king, saying, Our sovereign Adonai, surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child at whose birth the great star swallowed the 4 stars, which we declared to the king now 50 years since. And behold, now his father has also transgressed your commands, and mocked you by bringing you another child, which you did kill. And when the king heard their words, he was exceedingly angry, and he ordered Terach to be brought before him. And the king said, Have you heard what the conjurers said? Now, tell me truly, how did you, and if you shall speak truth, you shall be acquitted. And seeing that the king's anger was so much kindled, Terach said to the king, My Adonai and king, you have heard the truth, and what the sages have spoken is right. And the king said, How could you do this thing, to transgress my orders, and to give me a child that you did not beget, and to take value for him? And Terach answered the king, Because my tender feelings were excited for my son at that time. And I took a son of mine handmaid, and I brought him to the king. And the king said, Who advised you to this? Tell me, do not hide aught from me, and then you shall not die. And Terach was greatly terrified in the king's presence, and he said to the king, It was Haran, my eldest son, who advised me to this. And Haran was in those days that Avram was born 32 years old. But Haran did not advise his father to anything, for Terach said this to the king in order to deliver his soul from the king, for he feared greatly. And the king said to Terach, Haran, your son, who advised you to this, shall die through fire with Avram. For the sentence of death is upon him for having rebelled against the king's desire in doing this thing. And Haran at that time felt inclined to follow the ways of Avram, but he kept it within himself. And Haran said in his heart, Behold now, the king has seized Avram on account of these things which Avram did, and it shall come to pass that if Avram prevails over the king, I will follow him. But if the king prevails, I will go after the king. And when Terach had spoken this to the king concerning Haran his son, the king ordered Haran to be seized with Avram. And they brought them both, Avram and Haran his brother, to cast them into the fire. And all the inhabitants of the land, and the king's servants and princes, and all the women and the little ones were there, standing that day over them. And the king's servants took Avram and his brother, and they stripped them of all their clothes, And the king's servants took Avram and his brother, and they stripped them of all their clothes, excepting their lower garments, which were upon them. And they bound their hands and feet with linen cords. And the servants of the king lifted them up and cast them both into the furnace. And Yahuwah loved Avram, and he had compassion over him. And Yahuwah came down and delivered Avram from the fire, and he was not burned. But all the cords with which they bound him were burned, while Avram remained and walked about in the fire. And Haran died when they had cast him into the fire, and he was burned to ashes. For his heart was not perfect with Yahuwah. And those men who cast him into the fire, the flame of the fire spread over them, and they were burned. And 12 men of them died. And Avram walked in the midst of the fire 3 days and 3 nights. And all the servants of the king saw him walking in the fire. And they came and told the king, saying, Behold, we have seen Avram walking about in the midst of the fire, and even the lower garments which are upon him are not burned, but the cord with which he was bound is burned. And when the king heard their words, his heart fainted, and he would not believe them. So he sent other faithful princes to see this matter. And they went and saw it, and told it to the king. And the king rose to go and see it. And he saw Avram walking to and fro in the midst of the fire. And he saw Haran's body burned, and the king wondered greatly. And the king ordered Avram to be taken out from the fire. And his servants approached to take him out, and they could not, for the fire was round about, and the flame ascending toward them from the furnace. And the king's servants fled from it, and the king rebuked them, saying, Make haste and bring Avram out of the fire, then that you shall not die. And the servants of the king again approached to bring Avram out, and the flames came upon them, and burned their faces, so that 8 of them died. And when the king saw that her servants could not approach the fire, lest they should be burned, the king called to Avram, O servant of the Elohim who is in heaven, go forth from amidst the fire, and come hither before me. And Avram hearkened to the voice of the king, and he went forth from the fire, and came and stood before the king. And when Avram came out, the king and all his servants saw Avram coming before the king, with his lower garments upon him, for they were not burned, but the cord with which he was bound was burned. And the king said to Avram, How is it that you were not burned in the fire? And Avram said to the king, The Elohim of heaven and earth, in whom I trust, and who has all in his power, he delivered me from the fire into which you did cast me. And Haran, the brother of Avram, was burned to ashes. And they sought for his body, and they found it consumed. And Haran was 82 years old when he died in the fire of Kasdim. And the king, princes, and inhabitants of the land, seeing that Avram was delivered from the fire, they came and bowed down to Avram. And Avram said to them, Do not bow down to me, but bow down to the Elohim of the world who made you, and serve him, and go in his ways, for it is he who delivered me from out of this fire. And it is he who created the souls and ruhokos of all men, and formed man in his mother's womb. and brought him forth into the world. And it is he who will deliver those who trust in him from all pain. And this thing seemed very wonderful in the eyes of the king and princes, that Avram was saved from the fire, and that Haran was burned. And the king gave Avram many presents, and he gave him his 2 head servants from the king's house. The name of one was Oni, and the name of the other was Eliezer. And all the kings, princes, and servants gave Avram many gifts of silver and gold and pearl. And the king and his princes sent him away. And he went in peace. And Avram went forth from the king in peace. And many of the king's servants followed him, and about 300 men joined him. And Avram returned on that day and went to his father's house, he and the men that followed him. And Avram served Yahuwah Elohayu all the days of his life, and he walked in his ways and followed his Torah. And from that day forward, Avram inclined the hearts of the sons of men to serve Yahuwah. And at that time, Nachor and Avram took unto themselves women, the daughters of their brother Haran. The woman of Nachor was Milcah, and the name of Avram's woman was Sarai. And Sarai, the woman of Avram, was barren. She had no offspring in those days. And at the expiration of 2 years from Avram's going out of the fire, that is in the 52nd year of his life, behold, King Nimrod sat in Babel upon the throne. The king fell asleep and dreamed that he was standing with his troops and hosts in a valley opposite the king's furnace. And he lifted up his eyes and saw a man in the likeness of Avram coming forth from the furnace. And that he came and stood before the king with his drawn sword, and then sprang to the king with his sword. When the king fled from the man, for he was afraid, and while he was running, the man threw an egg upon the king's head, and the egg became a great river. And the king dreamed that all his troops sank in that river and died. And the king took flight with 3 men who were before him, and he escaped. And the king looked at these men, and they were clothed in princely dresses, as the garments of kings, and had the appearance and majesty of kings. And while they were running, the river again turned to an egg before the king. And there came forth from the egg a young bird, which came before the king and flew at his head, and plucked out the king's eye. And the king was grieved at the sight, and he awoke out of his sleep, and his ruach was agitated, and he felt a great terror. And in the morning the king rose from his couch in fear, and he ordered all the wise men and magicians to come before him, when the king related his dream to them. And a wise servant of the king, whose name was Anuku, answered the king, saying, This is nothing else but the evil of Avram and his seed, which will spring up against my Adonai and king in the latter days. And behold, the day will come when Avram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and they will smite all the king's hosts and his troops. And as to what you have said concerning 3 men, which you did see like unto yourself, and which did escape, this means that only you will escape with 3 kings from the kings of the earth, who will be with you in battle. And that which you saw of the river which turned to an egg as at first, and the young bird plucking out your eye, this means nothing else but the seed of Avram, which will slay the king in latter days. This is my king's dream, and this is its interpretation. And the dream is true, and the interpretation which your servant has given you is right. Now therefore, my king, surely you know that it is now 52 years since your sages saw this at the birth of Avram. And if my king will suffer Avram to live in the earth, it will be to the injury of my Adonai and king. For all the days that Avram lives, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. For this was known formerly at his birth. And why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from you in latter days? And Nimrod hearkened to the voice of Anuku, and he sent some of his servants in secret to go and seize Avram and bring him before the king to suffer death. And Eliezer, Avram's servant, whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king, and he heard what Anuku had advised the king, and what the king had said to cause Avram's death. And Eliezer said to Avram, "Hasten, rise up, and save your soul, that you may not die through the hands of the king. For thus did he see in a dream concerning you, and thus did Anuku interpret it, and thus also did Anuku advise the king concerning you." And Avram hearkened to the voice of Eliezer, and Avram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noach and his son Shem. And he concealed himself there and found a place of safety. And the king's servants came to Avram's house to seek him, but they could not find him. And they searched throughout the country, and he was not to be found. And they went and searched in every direction, and he was not to be met with. And when the king's servants could not find Avram, they returned to the king. But the king's anger against Avram was stilled, as they did not find him. And the king drove from his mind this matter concerning Avram. And Avram was concealed in Noach's house for 1 month, until the king had forgotten this matter. But Avram was still afraid of the king. And Terach came to see Avram his son secretly in the house of Noach. And Terach was very great in the eyes of the king. And Avram said to his father, "Do you not know that the king thinks to slay me and to annihilate my name from the earth by the advice of his wicked counselors? Now, whom have you here, and what have you in this land? Arise, let us go together to the land of Canaan, that we may be delivered from this land, lest you perish also through him in the latter days. Do you not know, or have you not heard, that it is not through love that Nimrod gives you all this honor, but it is only for his benefit that he bestows all this good upon you? And if he does unto you greater good than this, surely these are only vanities of the world, for wealth and riches cannot avail in the day of wrath and anger. Now therefore hearken to my voice, and let us arise, and go to the land of Canaan, out of the reach of injury from Nimrod, and serve Yahuwah, who created you in the earth, and it will be well with you, and cast away all the vain things which you pursue." And Avram ceased to speak, when Noach and his son Shem answered Terach, saying, "True is the word which Avram has said unto you." And Terach hearkened to the voice of his son Avram. And Terach did all that Avram said, for this was from Yahuwah, that the king should not cause Avram's death. Chapter 13. And Terach took his son Avram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, the woman of his son Avram, and all the souls of his household, and went with them from Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. And when they came as far as the land of Haran, they remained there, for it was exceedingly good land for pasture, and of sufficient extent for those who accompanied them. And the people of the land of Haran saw that Avram was good and upright with Elohim and men, and that Yahuwah Elohayu was with him. And some of the people of the land of Haran came and joined Avram, and he taught them the instruction of Yahuwah and his ways. And these men remained with Avram in his house, and they adhered to him. And Avram remained in the land 3 years, and at the expiration of 3 years, Yahuwah appeared to Avram and said to him, "I am Yahuwah who brought you forth from Kasdim, and delivered you from the hands of all your enemies. And now, therefore, if you will hearken to my voice and guard my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah, then will I cause your enemies to fall before you, and I will multiply your seed like the stars of heaven, and I will send my blessing upon all the works of your hands, and you shall lack nothing. Arise now, take your woman and all belonging to you, and go to the land of Canaan, and remain there. And I will there be unto you for an Elohim, and I will bless you. And Abram rose and took his woman and all belonging to him. And he went to the land of Canaan, as Yahuwah had told him. And Abram was 50 years old when he went from Haran. And Abram came to the land of Canaan, and dwelt in the midst of the city. And he there pitched his tent amongst the children of Canaan, inhabitants of the land. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram when he came to the land of Canaan, and said to him, This is the land which I gave unto you and to your seed after you forever. And I will make your seed like the stars of heaven, and I will give unto your seed for an inheritance all the lands which you see. And Abram built an altar in the place where Elohim had spoken to him. And Abram there called upon the name of Yahuwah. At that time, at the end of 3 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, in that year Noach died, which was the 58th year of the life of Abram. And all the days that Noach lived were 950 years, and he died. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, he, his woman, and all belonging to him, and all those that accompanied him, together with those that joined him from the people of the land. But Nachor, Avram's brother, and Terach, his father, and Lot, the son of Haran, and all belonging to them, dwelt in Haran. In the 5th year of Avram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, the people of Sidom and Amorah and all the cities of the circle of the Yarden revolted from the power of Chedorlaomer, the king of Elam. For all the kings of the cities of the circle of the Yarden had served Chedorlaomer for 12 years, and given him a yearly tax. But in those days, in the 13th year, they rebelled against him. And in the 10th year of Avram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, there was war between Nimrod, king of Shinar, and Chedorlaomer, king of Elam. And Nimrod came to fight with Chedorlaomer and to subdue him. For Chedorlaomer was at that time one of the princes of the hosts of Nimrod. And when all the people at that tower were dispersed, and those that remained were also scattered upon the face of the earth, Chedorlaomer went to the land of Elam, and reigned over it, and rebelled against his Adonai. And in those days, when Nimrod saw that the cities of the circle of the Yarden had rebelled, he came with pride and anger to war with Chedorlaomer. And Nimrod assembled all his princes and subjects, about 700,000 men, and went against Chedorlaomer. And Chedorlaomer went out to meet him with 5,000 men, and they prepared for battle in the valley of Babel, which is between Elam and Shinar. And all those kings fought there. And Nimrod and his people were smitten before the people of Chedorlaomer. And there fell from Nimrod's men about 600,000. And Mardon, the king's son, fell amongst them. And Nimrod fled, and returned in shame and disgrace to his land. And he was under subjection to Chedorlaomer for a long time. And Chedorlaomer returned to his land, and sent princes of his host to the kings that dwelt around him, to Arioch, king of Elasar, and to Tidal, king of nations, and cut a covenant with them, and they were all obedient to his commands. And it was in the 50th year of Avram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 70th year of the life of Avram, and Yahuwah appeared to Avram in that year, and he said to him, I am Yahuwah who brought you out from Kasdim to give you this land for an inheritance. Now, therefore, walk before me and be perfect, and guard my commands. For to you and to your seed I will give this land for an inheritance, from the river Mitzrayim unto the great river Perath. And you shall come to your fathers in peace, and in good age, and the 4th generation shall return here in this land, and shall inherit it forever. And Avram built an altar, and he called upon the name of Yahuwah, who appeared to him, and he brought up sacrifices upon the altar to Yahuwah. At that time, Avram returned and went to Haran to see his father and mother, and his father's household. And Avram and his woman and all belonging to him returned to Haran. And Avram dwelt in Haran 5 years. And many of the people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Avram, and Avram taught them the instruction of Yahuwah and his ways, and he taught them to know Yahuwah. In those days Yahuwah appeared to Avram in Haran, and he said to him, Behold, I spoke unto you these 20 years back, saying, Go forth from your land, from your birthplace, and from your father's house, to the land which I have shown you, to give it to you and to your children. For there in that land will I bless you, and make you a great nation, and make your name great. And in you shall the families of the earth be blessed. Now, therefore, arise, go forth from this place, you, your woman, and all belonging to you, also everyone born in your house, and all the souls you have made in Haran, and bring them out with you from there, and rise to return to the land of Canaan. And Avram arose and took his woman Sarai, and all belonging to him, and all that were born to him in his house, and the souls which they had made in Haran. And they came out to go to the land of Canaan. And Avram went and returned to the land of Canaan, according to the word of Yahuwah. And Lot, the son of his brother Haran, went with him. And Avram was 75 years old when he went forth from Haran to return to the land of Canaan. And he came to the land of Canaan according to the word of Yahuwah to Avram. And he pitched his tent, and he dwelt in the plain of Mamre. And with him was Lot, his brother's son, and all belonging to him. And Yahuwah again appeared to Avram, and said, To your seed will I give this land. And he there built an altar to Yahuwah, who appeared to him, which is still to this day in the plains of Mamre. Chapter 14. In those days there was in the land of Shinar a wise man who had understanding in all wisdom, and of a beautiful appearance, but he was poor and indigent. His name was Rikayon, and he was hard set to support himself. And he resolved to go to Mitzrayim, to Ozriris, the son of Anamin, king of Mitzrayim, to show the king his wisdom, for perhaps he might find grace in his sight, to raise him up and give him maintenance. And Rikayon did so. And when Rikayon came to Mitzrayim, he asked the inhabitants of Mitzrayim concerning the king, and the inhabitants of Mitzrayim told him the custom of the king of Mitzrayim. For it was then the custom of the king of Mitzrayim that he went from his royal palace and was seen abroad only one day in the year, and after that the king would return to his palace to remain there. And on the day when the king went forth, he passed judgment in the land, and everyone having a suit came before the king that day to obtain his request. And when Rikayon heard of the custom in Mitzrayim, and that he could not come into the presence of the king, he grieved greatly, and was very sorrowful. And in the evening Rikayon went out and found a house in ruins, formerly a bakehouse in Mitzrayim, and he abode there all night in bitterness of soul, and pinched with hunger, and sleep was removed from his eyes. And Rikayon considered within himself what he should do in the town until the king made his appearance, and how he might maintain himself there. And he rose in the morning and walked about, and met in his way those who sold vegetables and various sorts of seed with which they supplied the inhabitants. And Rikayon wished to do the same in order to get a maintenance in the city. But he was unacquainted with the custom of the people, and he was like a blind man among them. And he went and obtained vegetables to sell them for his support. And the rabble assembled about him and ridiculed him, and took his vegetables from him, and left him nothing. And he rose up from there in bitterness of soul, and went sighing to the bakehouse, in which he had remained all night before, and he slept there the second night. And on that night again he reasoned within himself, how he could save himself from starvation, and he devised a scheme for how to act. And he rose up in the morning and acted ingeniously, and went and hired 30 strong men of the rabble, carrying their war instruments in their hands. And he led them to the top of the Mitzrayim sepulchre, and he placed them there. Sepulchre. And he rose up in the morning and acted ingeniously, and went and hired 30 strong men of the rabble, carrying their instruments in their hands. And he led them to the top of the Mitzrayim sepulchre, and he placed them there. And he commanded them, saying, Thus says the king, strengthen yourselves and be valiant men, and let no man be buried here until 200 pieces of silver be given, and then he may be buried. And those men did according to the order of Rikayon to the people of Mitzrayim the whole of that year. And in 8 months' time, Rikayon and his men gathered great riches of silver and gold. And Rikayon took a great quantity of horses and other animals, and he hired more men, and he gave them horses, and they remained with him. And when the year came round, at the time the king went forth into the town, all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim assembled together to speak to him concerning the work of Rikayon and his men. And the king went forth on the appointed day, and all the Mitzrayim came before him, and cried unto him, saying, May the king live forever. What is this thing you do in the town to your servants, not to suffer a dead body to be buried until so much silver and gold is given? Was there ever the like unto this done in the whole earth, from the days of former kings? Yea, even from the days of Adam unto this day, that the dead should not be buried only for a set price? We know it to be the custom of kings to take a yearly tax from the living, but you do not only do this, but from the dead you also exact a tax, day by day. Now, O king, we can no more bear this, for the whole city is ruined on this account, and do you not know it? And when the king heard all that they had spoken, he was very angry, and his anger burned within him at this affair, for he had known nothing of it. And the king said, Who and where is he that dares to do this wicked thing in my land without my command? Surely you will tell me. And they told him all the works of Rikayon and his men, and the king's anger was aroused, and he ordered Rikayon and his men to be brought before him. And Rikayon took about 1,000 children, sons and daughters, and clothed them in silk and embroidery. And he set them upon horses, and sent them to the king by means of his men. And he also took a great quantity of silver and gold and precious stones, and a great and beautiful horse, as a present for the king, with which he came before the king, and bowed down to the earth before him. And the king, his servants, and all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim wondered at the work of Rikayon, and they saw his riches, and the presents that he had brought to the king. And it greatly pleased the king, and he wondered at it. And when Rikayon sat before him, the king asked him concerning all his works, and Rikayon spoke all his words wisely before the king, his servants, and all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim. And when the king heard the words of Rikayon and his wisdom, Rikayon found grace in his sight, and he met with grace and kindness from all the servants of the king and from all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim, on account of his wisdom and excellent speeches. And from that time they loved him exceedingly. And the king answered and said to Rikayon, Your name shall no longer be called Rikayon, but Pharaoh shall be your name, since you did exact the tax from the dead. And he called his name Pharaoh. And the king and his subjects loved Rikayon for his wisdom, and they consulted with all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim to make him prefect under the king. And all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim and its wise men did so, and it was made a law in Mitzrayim. And they made Rikayon Pharaoh prefect under Osiris, king of Mitzrayim, And Rikayon, Pharaoh, governed over Mitzrayim, daily administering justice to the whole city. But Oswiris, the king, would judge the people of the land one day in the year, when he went out to make his appearance. And Rikayon, Pharaoh, cunningly usurped the government of Mitzrayim, and he exacted a tax from all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim. And all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim greatly loved Rikayon, Pharaoh, and they made a decree to call every king that should reign over them and their seed in Mitzrayim, Pharaoh. Therefore all the kings that reigned in Mitzrayim from that time forward were called Pharaoh unto this day. Chapter 15. And in that year there was a heavy famine throughout the land of Canaan, and the inhabitants of the land could not remain on account of the famine, for it was very grievous. And Avram and all belonging to him rose and went down to Mitzrayim on account of the famine. And when they were at the brook Mitzrayim, they remained there some time to rest from the fatigue of the road. And Avram and Sarai were walking at the border of the brook Mitzrayim. And Avram beheld his woman Sarai, that she was very beautiful. And Avram said to his woman Sarai, Since Elohim has created you with such a beautiful countenance, I am afraid of the Mitzrayim, lest they should slay me and take you away. For the fear of Elohim is not in these places. Surely then you shall do this. Say you are my sister to all that may ask you, in order that it may be well with me, and that we may live and not be put to death. And Avram commanded the same to all those that came with him to Mitzrayim on account of the famine. Also his nephew Lot he commanded, saying, If the Mitzrayim ask you concerning Sarai, say she is the sister of Avram. And yet with all these orders Avram did not put confidence in them, but he took Sarai and placed her in a chest and concealed it amongst their vessels. For Avram was greatly concerned about Sarai on account of the wickedness of the Mitzrayim. And Avram and all belonging to him rose up from the brook Mitzrayim, and came to the Mitzrayim, and they had scarcely entered the gates of the city, when the guards stood up to them, saying, Give tithe to the king from what you have, and then you may come into the town. And Avram and those that were with him did so. And Avram with the people that were with him came to Mitzrayim, and when they came, they brought the chest in which Sarai was concealed, and the Mitzrayim saw the chest. And the king's servants approached Avram, saying, What have you here in this chest, which we have not seen? Now open the chest, and give tithe to the king of all that it contains. And Avram said, This chest I will not open, but all you demand upon it I will give. And Pharaoh's officers answered Avram, saying, It is a chest of precious stones. Give us the tenth thereof. Avram said, All that you desire I will give, but you must not open the chest. And the king's officers pressed Avram, and they reached the chest and opened it with force. And they saw, and behold, a beautiful woman was in the chest. And when the officers of the king beheld Sarai, they were struck with admiration at her beauty. And all the princes and servants of Pharaoh assembled to see Sarai, for she was very beautiful. And the king's officers ran and told Pharaoh all that they had seen. And they praised Sarai to the king. And Pharaoh ordered her to be brought. And the woman came before the king. And Pharaoh beheld Sarai, and she pleased him exceedingly. And he was struck with her beauty. And the king rejoiced greatly on her account, and made presents to those who brought him the tidings concerning her. And the woman was then brought to Pharaoh's house, and Avram grieved on account of his woman. And he prayed to Yahuwah to deliver her from the hands of Pharaoh. And Sarai also prayed at that time and said, O Yahuwah Elohim, you did tell my Adonai Avram to go from his land and from his father's house to the land of Canaan. And you did promise to do well with him if he would perform your commands. Now, behold, we have done that which you did command us, and we left our land and our families, and we went to a strange land and to a people whom we have not known before. And we came to this land to avoid the famine, and this evil accident has befallen me. Now therefore, O Yahuwah Elohim, deliver us and save us from the hand of this oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of your mercy. And Yahuwah hearkened to the voice of Sarai, and Yahuwah sent an angel to deliver Sarai from the power of Pharaoh. And the king came and sat before Sarai, and behold, an angel of Yahuwah was standing over them. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, Do not fear, for Yahuwah has heard your prayer. And the king approached Sarai and said to her, What is that man to you who brought you hither? And she said, He is my brother. And the king said, It is incumbent upon us to make him great, to elevate him and to do unto him all the good which you shall command us. And at that time the king sent to Avram silver and gold, and precious stones in abundance, together with cattle, men servants, and maidservants. And the king ordered Avram to be brought. And he sat in the court of the king's house, and the king greatly exalted Avram on that night. And the king approached to speak to Sarai, and he reached out his hand to touch her, when the angel smote him heavily. And he was terrified, and he refrained from reaching to her. And when the king came near to Sarai, the angel smote him to the ground, and acted thus to him the whole night. And the king was terrified. And the angel on that night smote heavily all the servants of the king, and his whole household, on account of Sarai. And there was a great lamentation that night amongst the people of Pharaoh's house. And Pharaoh, seeing the evil that befell him, said, Surely on account of this woman has this thing happened to me. And he removed himself at some distance from her, and spoke pleasing words to her. And the king said to Sarai, Tell me, I pray you, concerning the man with whom you came here. And Sarai said, This man is my man. And I said to you that he was my brother, for I was afraid, lest you should put him to death through wickedness. And the king kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the angel of Yahuwah ceased from him and his household. And Pharaoh knew that he was smitten on account of Sarai, and the king was greatly astonished at this. And in the morning the king called for Avram and said to him, What is this you have done to me? Why did you say she is my sister, owing to which I took her unto me to be my woman? And this heavy plague has therefore come upon me and my household. Now, therefore, here is your woman. Take her and go from our land, lest we all die on her account. And Pharaoh took more cattle, men servants and maidservants, and silver and gold to give to Avram. And he returned unto him Sarai his woman. And the king took a maiden whom he begat by his concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. And the king said to his daughter, It is better for you, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this man's house than to be mistress in my house, after we have beheld the evil that befell us on account of this woman. And Avram arose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh ordered some of his men to accompany him, and all that went with him. And Avram returned to the land of Canaan, to the place where he had made the altar, where he at first had pitched his tent. And Lot, the son of Haran, Avram's brother, had a heavy stock of cattle, flocks, and herds, and tents, for Yahuwah was bountiful to them on account of Avram. And when Avram was dwelling in the land, the herdsmen of Lot quarreled with the herdsmen of Avram, for their property was too great for them to remain together in the land, and the land could not bear them on account of their cattle. And when Avram's herdsmen went to feed their flock, they would not go into the fields of the people of the land, but the cattle of Lot's herdsmen did otherwise. for they were suffered to feed in the fields of the people of the land. And the people of the land saw this occurrence daily, and they came to Avram and quarreled with him on account of Lot's herdsmen. And Avram said to Lot, "What is this you are doing to me, to make me despicable to the inhabitants of the land, that you order your herdsmen to feed your cattle in the fields of other people? Do you not know that I am a stranger in this land amongst the children of Canaan? And why will you do this unto me?" And Avram quarreled daily with Lot on account of this. But Lot would not listen to Avram, and he continued to do the same. And the inhabitants of the land came and told Avram. And Avram said unto Lot, "How long will you be to me for a stumbling block with the inhabitants of the land? Now, I beseech you, let there be no more quarreling between us, for we are kinsmen. But I pray you separate from me. Go and choose a place where you may dwell with your cattle and all belonging to you. But keep yourself at a distance from me, you and your household. And be not afraid in going from me, for if anyone do any injury to you, let me know, and I will avenge your cause from him. Only remove from me." And when Avram had spoken all these words to Lot, then Lot arose and lifted up his eyes toward the plain of the Jordan. And he saw that the whole of this place was well watered, and good for man, as well as affording pasture for the cattle. And Lot went from Avram to that place, and he there pitched his tent, and he dwelt in Sedom. And they were separated from each other. And Avram dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and he pitched his tent there. And Avram remained in that place many years. The end of chapter 15. Psalms, Tehilliym, chapter 66. To the chief musician, a song or mizmor. Make a joyful noise unto Elohim, all you lands. Sing forth the honor of his name. Make his praise glorious. Say unto Elohim, how terrible are you in your works. Through the greatness of your power shall your enemies submit themselves unto you. All the earth shall worship you and shall sing unto you. They shall sing to your name, Selah. Come and see the works of Elohim. He is terrible in his doing toward the children of men. He turned the sea into dry land. They went through the flood on foot. There did we rejoice in him. He rules by his power forever. His eyes behold the nations. Let not the rebellious exalt themselves, Selah. O bless our Elohim, you people, and make the voice of his praise to be heard, which holds our soul in life and suffers not our feet to be moved. For you, O Elohim, have proved us. You have tried us as silver is tried. You brought us into the net. You laid affliction upon our loins. You have caused men to ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out into a wealthy place. I will go into your house with ascending smoke offerings. I will pay you my vows, which my lips have uttered, and my mouth has spoken when I was in trouble. I will offer unto you ascending smoke sacrifices of fatlings, with the incense of rams. I will offer bullocks with goats, Selah. Come and hear, all you that fear Elohim, and I will declare what he has done for my soul. I cried unto him with my mouth, and he was extolled with my tongue. If I regard iniquity in my heart, Adonai will not hear me. But truly Elohim has heard me. He has attended to the voice of my prayer. Blessed be Elohim, which has not turned away my prayer, nor his mercy from me. Amen. All praise and glory to the Most High Yah. Hallelujah. That was wonderful. I pray that you find this a blessing and that you are following along, reading on your own time. But study the Word. That is most important. Know the Father, know the Son, and be filled with the Holy Spirit. Ask the Father to be filled with the Holy Spirit. Ask the Father for discernment. He will not turn away your prayer. Trust in Him, have faith in Him, and be righteous and just. He is merciful. But follow His commandments. Follow His law, the Torah. The Torah is the law. Keep His commandments. Honor Him. And most high willing, I will see you in the next reading. Thank you so much for following along. Blessings and blessings upon you. Shalom.